So I'm going to share with you one of my very first slightly traumatizing, embarrassing experiences. Okay? Now this was at my neighbor's. He lives 3 houses over from my parents. Their grandson's birthday party, and he was one of the neighborhood kids. So we'd play, throughout the week or whatever, and we would play together all the time. But it was just us and my brother and I and him. And my brother and I played a different set of sports from him. He played primarily ice hockey, and he was really good at ice hockey too. And so I was probably around 6 or 7, and he invited me to his birthday party at the ice rink. My brother and I. My brother couldn't go, and so I went by myself. Right? My mom dropped me off, and it was this big ice hockey rink, and all the people that he invited to his birthday party, well, they were from his ice hockey team. Okay? Now, I'd never been ice skating before, okay? Now, I love my parents, and they're very positive, but they set me up for failure, okay? They said that I would be fine because ice skating is just like rollerblading, and I was good at rollerblading. They said it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And they were completely wrong. Ice skating is hard if you've never done it before. I realize now that I didn't tie my ice skates on tight enough. But if you've never done it before, it's very hard. I felt so many times that I was just going around the rink, holding the side all by myself, while his friends at this birthday party, who were very good at ice skating, were just going around very fast. And because of that, feeling like I was left out and unable to stand, I just started crying. And this is, I'm like 6 or 7, so I'm like old enough to know like crying is not cool. It's not something you're supposed to do, but I'm also young enough where you just kind of can't help it, right? Now my mom had dropped me off, and so she had to come back to pick me up, and so she started skating with me to try and help me, right? But I was so embarrassed of how bad I was at ice skating, and I was slightly traumatized. This is where the trauma comes in. Is that I never wanted to go ice skating again until I was much older. And I didn't want to go to that friend's birthday party anymore because, well, I thought all the other kids there would remember me as a kid that was always falling, right? My parents told me one thing, that it'd be easy, that I would be able to do it. But what I found was completely the opposite of that. It was hard and it was traumatizing. Now, there are things in this world that we are told one thing. We're told one thing, and then the actions of this world show us that that's not true, that they don't line up with what we're being told. We're told that all people are created equal, and we just celebrated our 4th of July, our Declaration of Independence, a couple weeks ago, that all men in the Declaration of Independence are created equal. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The reasoning given by the signers was based on their theology of God, that this is given by God. Now, it took and will continue to take a lot more work to make sure that this includes women in this as well. But this is what we are taught and told in school, that everyone is created equal, at least in this country. Yet we are shown through the actions of others that this isn't true. Because we, and I'm just talking about us too, is we devalue people all the time. In so many spaces in this society, your worth oftentimes is based on how much money you make. Okay, your worth is based on how much money you make. That because if you were to get richer, you are now inherently higher than other people, right? You're able to look down on other people. That's not what we're told. Or the title of the position that you hold. If there's no manager or director in front of it, that the things in this life that you've achieved also add to your value in life. In militaries across the world, across all of time, people are taught to devalue the lives of the enemy so that it's easier to take their lives. The enemy, they're all blank. The Roman Empire was taught that the enemy, they're all barbarians. They're all fill in the blank. They're all whatever. Whatever used to describe them is meant to to dehumanize them, that they are subhuman, they are less than us because of whatever they are. Equality in our world isn't given, it's lost. The melanin in your skin is one of the quickest ways to lose equality. I have yet to talk and meet a black male that has told me that they've never been pulled over by the cops for no reason. I have yet to meet one. You can almost guarantee that when someone goes to prison, they're devalued immediately. Their standard and expectations of the health care that we give them, of the food that we feed them, of the treatment that they're given, are all taken away, right? They're all taken immediately. And if your immediate reaction is, but they're criminals, they broke the law, I want us to just gently be reminded of the fact that, of just how far God's grace goes. We're talking about God here. Under God's law, we are all condemned. We are all criminals. We have all broken the law. We're all in the same boat. There's no, I'm slightly better than you. There's no, I haven't broken those laws, right? There's none of that. There's no hierarchy. We're all condemned. And there's only the hope of restoration that has been given by God. And so when we look at each other and every single person in society, we remember that God values all equally because their value has been given by God and determined by God, not by us, not by society's rules. Their value is there simply because God made them. It's not by the amount of money that you earn or that they earn or the laws that they have kept or broken or not kept or the color or their skin or the country that they have been born in. Their value is simply inherent and there, simply because God created them. Here's the real tension that I want us to wrestle with. If society devalues people, but God values all no matter what, then what are we supposed to do about that? And so to answer this, we're going to look at our modern day Hall of Famer, and his name is Father Greg Boyle. And I don't know if this is how it happened, but he also happens to be in Boyle Heights, LA. And his work with ex-convicts with gang intervention shows us how to value people who have been devalued by society, but also how to bring about restoration. And so in order to better understand this, we're going to read a text that's preachers like, but I don't know if congregations really like, because it's very confusing. And so we're going to read it. It comes from the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. And it says this: "A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his ears see, or what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he shall judge for the poor, and decide with equity for the oppressed of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. The wolf shall live with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the kid. The calf and the lion will feed together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze. Their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the adder's den. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea." The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. So the first verses on this first slide, they're actually Advent verses, meaning that it's looking forward to the time that Jesus comes. They describe who Jesus would be, that he is going to be from the line of King David, which is talking about, in this verse, it's talking about Jesse's stump. Jesse is David's father. So something that is very much dead, a tree stump is very much dead, brings about new life. And we know that King David's kingly lineage ends 500 years before Jesus comes and resurrects that line. But for our purposes, I want us to understand that the remainder of this verse, after verse 5, is for us after Christ. Is after Jesus has come. Meaning, what did Jesus' birth, what does the Christmas story inaugurate? What does the birth of Christ begin for us today? What is the world supposed to be working towards now that Jesus has come? And so we get this interesting prophetic vision that relationships that are seemingly impossible have become possible. That the wolf shall live with the lamb, that prey and predator live with one another. That the animals that will trample and eat the meek are not only meek themselves, but are passionate towards them. And this is not literally how it's going to be, by the way. You're not going to go outside and see a wolf sitting with his sheep. But it is a testament to how God's restoration will be. That relationships that were thought to be impossible become possible. That God's grace is so powerful that prey and predator live in harmony with one another, where enemies in the animal kingdom are now together. Things and relationships that are impossible are now possible. And the image that is given to us by the prophet Isaiah paints an image of the earth unlike anything that we can imagine. Yet this is the very image Christ comes to bring, something that is unimaginable, something unlike anything that we've seen. And our very purpose is the same, to bring about relationships that are seen as impossible, like that between a priest and ex-convicts. Father Greg Boyle was appointed to the Boyle Heights parish in the 90s in Los Angeles, when gang violence in LA was at its peak. And he saw what gang violence was doing to this community. And in the Catholic Church, from what I understand, they could be appointed to other parishes and they move around. And Father Greg, he could have been appointed to another parish. He could have requested a transfer, but he stayed. He said that when he first started, he had to bury 260 people due to gang violence in the area. And he ultimately didn't believe that God's plan was that someone just ended up dead because of a bullet being put in them. And he believed that the root of the issue was access to jobs. And so he coined the term, nothing stops a bullet like a job. And so he started thinking. And he set up a silk screening place where people from rival gangs are able to get jobs. They ended up working together. Father Boyle began seeing changed lives and people. Enemies were working side by side in the same atmosphere, like a wolf lying down with the sheep. He saw restoration taking place between people who had previously killed each other. They were now doing jobs with one another, like serving coffee, making shirts, working in a restaurant, working in factories. And so he began creating more and more and more businesses to make more jobs to give them to these people. He only hired gang members, ex-convicts, or people who were coming off of their prison sentences. Through his efforts, he now runs the largest gang intervention, rehabilitation, and reentry program in the entire world. His organization is called Homeboy Industries. And then he started Homegirl Industries. They're a very well-known organization. In fact, Moss and Norma Jean's niece worked with them for a long time. Before any of this, people would have never thought that rival gang members would have been able to work side by side with one another. Yet Father Boyle didn't let that stop him. He saw a world in need of healing and restoration. Father Boyle saw what we all need to see in other humans, no matter what they've done or who they are, that they're all made in the image of God. That no one is outside of God's grace, no matter how bad they are. And that everyone is capable of being restored. True restoration, the restoration that God calls us to do, is this. And it begins with the people of God. People who follow Jesus, who believe that impossible relationships can happen because of God's grace. It begins with us. Father Boyle didn't believe that his first thing to do was to just sit and think and pray on it. He believed in action, and so he started these jobs. There are so many places that restoration needs to go, but it begins with us because we are God's hands and feet. The simplicity of the statement that God works best through God's people means that God's restoration comes through God's people, and we are God's people. Father Boyle's understanding of the gospel and the way that he lived it honestly challenges me in particular. I was watching some of his sermons, or at least some of the clips from his sermons, and I'll share one story with you as to why it challenges me. And so he told this story in one of his sermons. He's told the story of a 12-year-old kid named Bethel. He said that Bethel would come into his office very often throughout the week. And because English wasn't his primary language, he'd want to try out these new English phrases that he'd learned on TV. He'd go, Father Boyle, you're the real deal, right? And he got that from El Pollo Loco commercial, right? The real deal is $1.99, right, for maybe chicken and some sides, right? And he would regularly see this 12-year-old boy and would talk to him about just whatever was going on in that, in Bethel's life. Things like girls, right? Now, Bethel, like all kids in that area, were affected by the gang violence in that area. And one afternoon, he was playing with some other kids, his cousins, I think it was, in that neighborhood. And two gang members were just standing nearby, near a dumpster smoking or whatever. And a van from a rival gang came and began shooting at the rival gang members, killing both of those two that were standing there. And Father Boyle describes that when the shooting begins, people in that area know to run. But Beto, for some reason, didn't run. And so Beto was shot. And when he was taken to the hospital, Father Boyle was called, and so he recalls this. The doctors worked on him in emergency surgery for 4 hours. That he had been shot, but it didn't hit his spine. It went right through him. But because the caliber of the bullet was so big that the reverberations damaged his spine. And so they were trying to fix this. And Beto survived the surgery after 4 hours. But during his recovery, in that post-hour, the doctors couldn't get his heart to cooperate. And so he died within the hour after recovering. And Father Boyle was in that emergency room with the family because he had cared for them, grandmother, parents, all of them. But he ends his sermon with this. He asked this question, that the story, the reason for why he told that story, it wasn't about Beto. He asks, do we have the compassion to include in our circle all of them, including the two gang members that shot and killed Beto, a 12-year-old boy in cold blood? He asks us that because he knows that Jesus has asked that of us, that no one has been excluded, not even two gang members who murder and kill 12-year-old boys. God's vision for this world restores us to a place where the leopard lies down with the kid, where the wolf lies down with the sheep, where gang members who want to kill one another, predators, can experience and know the grace of God that can transform them to be in a place where they could be with one another. If God's grace can reach people like this, the people we consider hard to love in our own lives, that pesky and annoying neighbor, whoever it is, the restoration that we find challenging can certainly happen. All of that certainly seems possible when we're talking about Father Boyle's ministry of bringing gang members, rival gang members together. Father Boyle has done it for so many years that he has seen the fruit of his labors, stating that there's one kid that he worked with, that he would ride his bike over to his apartment complex at night. And he would see this kid, and he said that this kid was one of the hardest kids for him to work with. And he would see him just selling crack to kids and other people in the neighborhood. And he would tell him, how about you get a job? And he'd say, no, I'm good, right? Eventually, that kid got a job. And years later, he talked to them again. That kid, that gang member, was married, had children, and was asking Father Boyle to pray over their eldest daughter who was going to college, because she was the first person in that family to go to college. Father Boyle gave them jobs and purpose in life. Restoration is possible in this world. We're able to bring restoration into this world, and our world needs that restoration. Amen.